Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into something I think we all feel deep down, that almost primal urge to just go. We're going to look at why we're basically hardwired to wander, what modern life is doing to get in the way of that, and, this is the big one, how getting truly lost can actually change us forever. Have you ever just felt that deep, nagging urge to escape? To just pack a bag and go? Of course you have. But here's the crazy thing. What if that feeling is as old as humanity itself? And what if the biggest thing stopping you is literally right there in your pocket? That little device that books our flights can also be the very thing that keeps us on a leash, you know? It stops us from the genuine wandering our brains are actually craving. So let's get one thing straight. This urge to go, it isn't just about wanting a 2-week vacation to sip drinks on a beach. No, it's way, way deeper than that. It's actually a deep-seated evolutionary drive. Think about it. For our ancestors, exploring was literally a matter of life and death, finding new resources, new places to live. And for us, that exact same instinct has become the engine for our own growth, both emotionally and intellectually. Okay, so let's get a little nerdy and talk about brain chemistry, because this is fascinating. Whenever we experience something new, I'm talking a different culture, a strange new food, a view that just takes your breath away, our brain's reward system gets a huge hit of dopamine. That's that feel-good chemical, right? It creates this powerful feedback loop that makes us want more adventure. And get this, the rush doesn't even wait for the trip to start. Just planning it, just the anticipation of it all, can give you that same dopamine boost. It's no wonder they call it a travel bug. It's literally addictive. And this right here, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, illustrates this point perfectly. We tend to think of travel as just leisure, right? A luxury. But look at this pyramid. Travel can actually satisfy our needs at every single level. It can be about our basic physiological needs, like just getting some rest. It can be about love and belonging when we connect with new people. And it can even take us all the way to the top, to self-actualization, that incredible feeling of fulfilling a lifelong dream. So there's actually a really cool framework for this that tourism researchers use. It's called the push/pull theory. Think of it like this. There are things pushing you away from home, internal stuff like being bored of your routine, needing a break, or maybe even just wanting to show off a little. But at the same time, there are things pulling you toward a destination. It's amazing culture, the beautiful scenery, the history. It's that combination, that push and that pull, that finally gets us to pack our bags and get out the door. All right, so we've established we're basically wired with this ancient, unstoppable urge to go explore. But here's where things get tricky. That ancient urge is now crashing head-on into a very modern problem, this relentless pressure to live a perfect, optimized, flawless life. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han has a name for this. He calls it achievement perfectionism. And it's this idea that our lives are supposed to be like a perfectly curated Instagram feed, right? A smooth, efficient highlight reel, with no mistakes, no delays, no pain. Failure isn't an option, it's a weakness. So what do? We lean on algorithms to give us the fastest route, the 5-star restaurant, the perfect photo op. And in doing so, we completely eliminate the chance of ever getting lost. And this brings us to a really, really important distinction. On one hand, you have genuine wandering. It's active, it's messy, it's about exploring the real world, and it's what builds our resilience. But on the other hand, you have what we do on our phones, that endless, mindless scrolling. Researchers actually have a name for this, pseudo-wandering. It's totally passive, it's just a distraction, where we're trapped in this closed loop, only seeing what an algorithm decides to feed us. And this right here is Han's big warning. He's saying that by trying to engineer all the bad stuff out of our lives, the frustration of taking a wrong turn, the anxiety of not knowing what's next, we're actually robbing ourselves of the chance to get stronger. I mean, philosophers have been saying this for centuries. It's by facing the negative, by struggling through the tough parts, that we actually deepen our character and, grow as people. Okay, so what if we actually did it? What if we pushed back against all that pressure for perfection and just dared to get lost? What actually happens then? What are the real, profound psychological rewards of just letting go and embracing uncertainty? Check out this number. This is wild. 84% of solo travelers are women. That's not just a statistic, that's a massive growing movement. And it's all being driven by a desire for freedom, for bravery, for self-discovery. I mean, talk about a rebellion against the idea of just playing it safe. And one of the most powerful things that happens when we travel is that we experience awe. You know that feeling when you're standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon or in the middle of a massive bustling city and you suddenly feel small, but in a good way. Psychologists call this a small self experience. And what's amazing is that feeling, that sense of being a part of something huge and magnificent, is proven to make us less self centered and actually boosts our creativity and empathy. And if you really want to accelerate that personal growth, traveling alone is like putting it on hyperdrive. Here's how it works. First, you have to tackle your anxiety. You're out there navigating the world alone, and you have to confront challenges. Then, what happens? You start building real confidence. You prove to yourself that you can handle it, that you can trust your own judgment. And finally, all that solitude gives you the space for some serious self-reflection. You get this amazing clarity about who you really are and what you really want out of life. But here's the thing. The journey doesn't just end when you get on the plane to come home. No way. For a lot of people, coming back is actually one of the hardest parts of the whole experience. And if you've ever felt that, you need to know it is completely 100% normal. I absolutely love this quote because it's such a perfect way to describe it. It's like trying on your favorite old pair of jeans, but they just don't fit right anymore. The jeans are the same, your house is the same, your job is the same, but the thing that's changed, that's you. You've grown, and now there's this weird gap between the person you were and the person you've become. Now, this feeling can show up in a couple of different ways. First, there's the one we probably all know, post-travel depression. That's that classic feeling of loss when an amazing trip is over and your normal routine just feels blah. But then there's something else, something a little weirder, reverse culture shock. This is when you actually struggle to fit back into your own culture. You suddenly feel like a total outsider in the one place on earth you're supposed to call home. But, and this is so important, there's a huge upside to that crash. That difficult feeling, it's actually a good sign. It is proof positive that you have grown. It means you've built resilience. You've expanded your worldview. You're a different, better person now. That discomfort you're feeling is just the sound of the new you trying to integrate itself into your old life. Okay, so this brings us to the big takeaway. How do we hold on to that incredible transformative spirit of travel and actually apply it to our regular, everyday lives, especially when so much of that life is digital? Well, the answer might be in becoming something called a digital flaneur. Now, a flaneur was this old school 19th century term for someone who just strolls through a city with no goal other than to just experience it. The modern version? It's about taking that same intentional, curious mindset and applying it to our digital world. It's about consciously breaking free from that addictive, passive scrolling. And the way you do that is by practicing something called educating the gaze. All it really means is paying active attention. It doesn't matter if you're walking down your own street or browsing the internet. You just start asking yourself, okay, what am I really seeing here? And how do I want to respond to it? This one little shift can take you from being a passive consumer of content to an active explorer who's open to being changed by the world around you. So, at the end of the day, what have we learned? The spirit of travel, that wanderlust, it's not just about packing a suitcase and going somewhere new. It's a mindset. It's about curiosity, it's about resilience, and it's about being willing to embrace the unknown. So the real question, the real challenge for all of us is this. In a world that's designed for perfect efficiency, how are you going to practice the art of wandering? How are you going to get beautifully, purposefully lost, even when you're right at home?